I would say to him, he should try to explain what the problem was with the triple lock, and try to explain that if you return to a situation which we had, where they increase in line with inflation, that will not be a hit to the standard of living of pensioners, but that it would at least save us from paying hugely higher levels of taxes, which very few people want to do, and very few governments have the credibility to enforce.
Next up for discussion, will Andy Burnham be a Prime Minister who dares to tell the truth about the most important issue facing the country? The triple lock. That is the question posed by Dominic Lawson in his Sunday Times column this week, and he joins us now. Good morning, Dominic.
No, Rosie.
Lay out the case for why you think it's the most important issue facing the country.
Yeah, actually, I didn't say the triple lock was the most important. It was the overall national debt, which is spiralling out of control. We're already paying £110 billion a year in interest payments alone. But the OBR last week cited the pension triple lock as one of the causes of this. And the particular problem with the triple lock is it is configured to increase pensions by either the rate of inflation or the increase in earnings, or if those are below 2.5%, to increase pensions by that amount. In other words, pensions are configured, or the state pensions are configured to grow by definition more than the economy and more than the wages of people in working life. And the particular problem that we face is that at the moment we have roughly 3.5 people of working age to every one pensioner. By 2050, that will have fallen to 2 people of working age to every one pensioner. So it is a very, very stark demographic and fiscal problem.
Yes. What's the solution to it that isn't too politically damaging, that means a political party could pursue it?
Well, I did speak to Jeremy Hunt, and who has said that the triple lock maintenance is immoral, he said, because of intergenerational unfairness, as he put it. And when I pointed out to him, well, you didn't act on those views in the 2024 election. In fact, you even suggested a quadruple lock in which the tax-free allowance of pensioners would be similarly indexed, unlike everyone else. He came up with the idea that there should be a royal commission, which this government would appoint to look into pensions, and it would report, and would almost certainly report, that this was unsustainable. But the problem, as I wrote, is that those things can take years, and years is what we don't have.
Yeah. We've had some groups, Reform at one point said, we'll scrap the triple lock. And then they had Robert Jenrick appointed in charge of their sort of fiscal policy, and they changed their mind. Andy Burnham has said we've got to keep the triple lock because they know how damaging it will be to their electorate that they want to support to say we're not going to give it to you anymore. And so therein lies the problem, Dominic.
Yeah, indeed. And one of the reasons, and I'm afraid it's quite cynical, is that if you were to change the policy, to return to what we used to have, where the state pension would increase in line with inflation. So that's not a cut. The pensioners' standard of living would be at least maintained. But the problem is that the benefits, you have an enormous, as you say, an enormous political hit when you do it. But the real benefits don't occur until many years later, where they pile up. And of course, the politicians will be retired, dead, or in the House of Lords, but anyway, won't gain the advantage. And I'm afraid that is very cynical, but I fear that is the reason.
Yeah, so how do you persuade people to vote for something that will benefit their children or their grandchildren?
Well, actually, Theresa May kind of did that in the 2017 election. You probably remember she said we couldn't have the 2.5% element to the triple lock, so she tweaked it. In fact, she also said the winter fuels payment should be means tested. It was a catastrophe electorally, and she did all the things that were morally correct. And as a result of her manifesto, which was attacked even by Conservative supporting papers, although not by me as it happens, the huge lead that the Conservatives had in the polls was almost wiped out, and she lost her majority. And I'm afraid that is a very salutary lesson to those, and Jeremy Hunt and John Major said, the British people would like to be told the truth. No, they don't.
Yes. So, I mean, it does also suggest we're living in sort of short-termism the whole time. You know, we had net zero policy that was talking about Theresa May. You know, she was the architect of a lot of that. And now the Conservative Party have said we can't pursue this. Whether we're talking about building nuclear power sites, well, that takes decades. And if we were debating it, we'd done it, we'd have them now. But no one seems prepared to make the costly decision now if the payoff doesn't come for 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's the nature of the electoral cycle. And by the way, I mean, going back a bit, that's one reason why the Bank of England was made independent and politicians, if you like, gave up control of interest rates because the interest rates were being managed according to the electoral cycle, which is potentially very dangerous and inflationary, although the Bank of England hasn't completely covered itself in glory. But nonetheless, this is a decision which politicians have to take, governments have to take. Or, I mean, the alternative, which they're also not prepared to do, would be to put up income taxes dramatically to maintain this triple lock to pensioners. But of course, the public not only don't want to abandon the triple lock, or rather the very high proportion of the public increasingly who are of pensionable age, but nobody wants to pay the taxes, which, by the way, people in Europe pay, for a higher rate of state pension benefits, but they have a much higher proportion of taxes of GDP than we do. But you can't, so to speak, have your cake and eat it, to use the old phrase. You have to choose.
If you could deliver a message that wasn't just via the Times newspaper, but directly to Andy Burnham, what would it be?
I would say to him, he should try to explain what the problem was with the triple lock, and try to explain that if you return to a situation which we had, where they increase in line with inflation, that will not be a hit to the standard of living of pensioners, but that it would at least save us from paying hugely higher levels of taxes, which very few people want to do, and very few governments have the credibility to enforce.
Yeah. Do you know, Dominic, it's been brilliant. We've given you a very thorough preview of what you're going to read tomorrow in the Sunday Times. Dominic Lawson, the columnist, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You can read that at thetimes.com with your digital subscription, and more to come with Ben Taylor, the editor of the Sunday Times, before 10 o'clock, who will tell you what else is in the paper tomorrow.